How are you, man?
Yeah, good man. How are you? Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Very grateful.
Thank you for having me, and apologies for my lateness.
Oh, it was my bad, bro. I sent the email, the invite quite late on in the evening. So,
So, yeah,
but
man.
yeah. So just to give you a
I'm
bit of
here.
background, I currently, well, I was before this pandemic. I was playing for Carnival Cruise Lines, and then I came, yeah, and then I came back off the ships because of everything that was going on. And
Awesome.
then I decided to start this podcast. I'd been doing it for a few years anyway, as like a way to kind of get to converse with people like yourself at that like very elite level. That's like a level I'd love to play at one day. And the easiest way to do it was just by picking people's brains about, them doing it themselves. So, uh, so here we are. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, man. Pleasure to be here. And
Yeah. So
yeah,
why don't we dive straight in? How has the last year been?
this last year it's been a bit of a catch-22 actually. I think it's had some benefits and obviously it's had some challenges, but um, I think as humans we all adapt and you just learn to take the rough with the smooth and appreciate the smoother moments
Yeah.
more so than the rough ones. I think our industry got hit, obviously one of the hardest out of everyone, but on the other hand, we all got to be home and be with our families and actually participate in a lot of activities that we wouldn't be able to do so had we still been on the road or working in wherever we work. So for that reason, I've really appreciated this time. But yeah, definitely ready to get back and make some noise.
Yeah. Are there plans in place?
There are plans in place. Can't talk about it. But
Yeah, that's
and the next few weeks, I'll be able to talk and update you.
that's exciting, man. That's exciting to get back.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know our industry is pushing on to go as well. So
Yeah,
this is great times for us all. I'm sure it's gonna work out. It'll work out. It always does.
yeah,
So why don't we dive straight in with? I would love to know. I read about you, and I read that you grew up in church and that you've been playing professionally for a very long time.
yeah.
So how did all of that come around?
Um, yeah, as you said, I grew up in church. Drums have been part of my life for a very, very, very long time. From a young age, I think I was 3 years old when I started playing. So um, I'm not sure how good I was at three, but I was good enough for my parents to actually take notice and try and cultivate um, my talent, and they got me drum kit, stuff like that. My grandma got me my first drum kit, God rest her soul, at 4 years old, and I broke that within about 6 months. That Mickey Mouse one, and then I got a little red drum kit, which I still have back in London actually. That was my first wooden acoustic kit at about 5, and yeah, grew up in church playing. Ended up playing for like your local gospel acts and national gospel acts, and then a lot of church players, they play in the pop industry as well. So I started to make friends with some of the the older guys that were doing it already, like your Gareth Browns and your Boy Baileys, your Jerry Browns, Josh McKenzie, Aaron Fagan, aka Break Break. Those guys as drummers, they kind of took me under their wing and
Yeah.
showed me the do's and the do nots and stuff like that of the pop industry. And straight out of college in 2008, I got the opportunity to cover a few shows for a good friend of mine, Andrew McLean, playing for VV Brown. And yeah, the rest was kind of history from there. I ended up staying on the VV Brown gig as he moved on to Grace Jones. And then, yeah, from that, I kind of transitioned from that to Pixie Lot for a bit, and then Peter Andre, N-Dubs, Jesse J, which I got quite a lot of recognition for. And then now I'm with Sam Smith and Westlife, which is great.
Yeah, what a rise.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And so how influential would you say that the gospel community and the church community was in aiding that?
Oh, very influential. You know, especially with, you know, like a gig like Westlife, a lot of their band for most of their career was people that came out of church. So to see that as a young musician growing up, it was great to have something to aspire to. And, you know, and growing up in church and playing on Sundays, you know, you're playing with musicians every day, every week. And, you know, you have to be in tune with what the worship leader is singing or what the pastor's singing if the pastor raises the song. You know, it gives you a great sort of training ground of how to interact and play with musicians and play to serve the music first. And then also in church, there's a lot of different styles that we're covering as well. So you kind of get an ear for different styles, even if it's not played super authentically at that time. You kind of get your ear ready. So when you do play pop gigs or whatever style of music, your ear's kind of used to the sound, so you can fine tune and then go in and make it as authentic as you can make it.
Yeah, and so obviously you grew up in that. What would you say to anyone who would like that? That experience is invaluable. Sometimes that takes musicians years to gain that live experience, right? And you had it from such a young age. How would you get around that for younger musicians now?
Well, now obviously it's tough because the world is still shut down. But I mean, things open back up. Yeah, just, you know, get yourself to church. You know, if you can't play there, just be around the music, or, you know, get yourself to a jam night. Just get yourself around other musicians, get yourself around other players. Obviously, it's easy to play and sound great playing with yourself in your bedroom, but hopefully, if you want to make a sustainable career out of it, you will want to play with other musicians and play on stage, and that relationship that you build with other musicians is priceless, you know.
Yeah. So did you see when you were playing in church, have you seen now that you play with, you know, Sam Smith and these massive time artists, do you see direct correlations between your experience when you were younger and now this big gig?
Yeah, there can be correlations, especially if you just do stuff live and off the cuff. You know, it depends on the show. Sometimes, you know, there are those live moments, but you have to look around and kind of figure things out with each other. Or if, you know, if the artist wants to just add something, you know, on the fly, depending if the crowd does something, you know, there are those moments where you see the correlation.
Yeah, and then you're on the edge of your seat, right?
Yeah. But it's great, you know. That's, you know, it kind of brings you back to that moment of yeah, I used to do this in church, just kind of just figure things out and just play off, you know, inspiration. And yeah, it's quite rewarding, but, you know, it depends on the gig as well. Some gigs are very regimented, where you're playing around the same things every night, and some gigs are more free. So it depends on which gig you're doing, and you know, how you can implement what you've grown up and put it into, you know, your experience on a gig.
And that exposure is just absolutely invaluable, isn't it? Especially, like you said, that week after week exposure where, you know, you can make more mistakes in those 4 weeks than someone might be making in years, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the major differences between playing every single night and then playing like once a weekend. It's like you can make a mistake one night and then you can repair it by the next night. Whereas it would take you a whole week, you know, on a local gig to get that right again.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just like the process is just sped up. So do you feel like that's what happened with you?
Yeah, I think it is. You know, you just kind of, the more you play, the less afraid you are, because, you know, you're becoming in tune with your instrument. You're becoming in tune with what, you know, you like to do. You're building your vocabulary as a musician, you know, as musicians, especially as drummers, because drums traditionally were used as communication instruments. So there's very much a voice that we have as drummers. So, you know, it's all about building your vocabulary. The same way, like back in school, we used to learn new words, you know, to sound smart and to sound, you know, when to use different words. It's the same thing with drums, and when to use different patterns, when to use different chops and stuff like that. It's all about building your vocabulary, and the more you play, the more you're able to do that.
Yeah, and what do you say? I've watched many of your videos, many of your live videos, but then also many of your musical integrity is so elite level. You know, you seem to have just such a right, you know what's right to play where, and you know how you know kind of how many fills to put in or how many not to put in, which is kind of more important than putting them in the first place. But did that also come from just playing live and maybe sometimes reparations from maybe other people, you know?
Yeah, it comes from time, comes from experience, which only can come from playing. And I think, you know, the more you play and the more you get into those situations, the more you can kind of gauge it. Yeah, at the beginning there was some, you know, not this time. I was younger, obviously I wanted to just go all guns blazing. But you know, I think it was great that my first gig was VB Brown. You know, coming from a church setting where I had total license to kind of do what I want creatively on the drums. VB Brown was like a punk rock pop kind of setting, so it was just meat and potatoes. So it was like to go into that and just kind of lock into finding joy in just playing the parts. I think that was integral for my career moving forward. And, you know, obviously not everybody can get in a situation like that moving forward, but you kind of have to just take from, you know, your situation and kind of find joy in the parts that you're playing. If it's less flashy, then find joy in just playing those parts and making sure they're as tight as possible. And, you know, if it's more flashy, then, you know, find joy in, you know, playing those chops to the best possible quality as well, and making sure you're hitting that one and the groove is not sacrificed by it.
Yeah, and I think on the Sam gig you have just like from what I could see is just such a lovely license between the two. So you have these like rock solid, you know, grooves like Restart and things like that, and then you also have times where you can push out a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, that was something that that we worked out through rehearsal, you know. With Sam, obviously now he's been out and he's established as an artist. So musically we can take it up a level. As to, you know, maybe if I'd come in on the first album campaign, then I wouldn't be doing as much as I'm doing, you know. It's just literally finding, you know, the right balance as to, you know, where the artist is, what the MD wants, and trying to make it the best possible situation for everybody.
Yeah, and like you said, that experience, I guess, just comes from years of playing and knowing, you know, does your integrity come from just that?
Yeah, it comes from years of playing, but it comes from just continuously studying as well, and just not just studying drums, studying music, and just being in tune with what everybody else is playing, and not just playing for yourself, and you know, just playing so every drummer can be like, oh yeah, he's dope, he's sick.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously we want to be respected by our peers, but the main focus is making sure that everybody in the crowd is nodding their heads and clapping their hands and dancing. That's what we're made to. That's what our main focus is as drummers. Is to
absolutely. I had a great quote from Steve Jordan once, and he said, if people aren't dancing whilst I'm playing, I'm doing my job wrong.
Absolutely. And I heard the same quote, and I took that on as well. So I literally, when I'm playing, I'm looking towards the back of the arena or wherever we're playing, and I'm looking to see if they're dancing, because I want the people at the back to feel it as much as the people right in front as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I mean, we have so much power within our position to do that, though, right?
Yeah, we do. and it could just start just from a kick, just that, and everybody's going crazy. It's amazing to be able to affect people in that way.
Yeah. And so you've obviously, like we've just said, you grew up you've grown up basically being a professional musician. Like, what's that been like? Like, most people don't make it till, they come out of education, and then it takes like 5 to 10 years before they even get those gigs. What's that been like?
It's been pretty all right. Obviously, I'm grateful to be able to be in this position. Like only through the grace of God, I'm able to be able to do what I do at such a high level at my age. But I think, growing up on the road, obviously now, just coming home and being at home, like it was a little bit of a shock to my system, because it's literally since I left school I've been touring. So that's why I said this pandemic has been great for me personally in that respect. Just to be able to, appreciate being home and appreciate other things outside music as well. So I think from that aspect, it's been great. And I'm looking forward to getting back with this newfound appreciation of everything. I think this has been a time to just reflect and reset and kind of just find appreciation in my job, and then find appreciation in things outside of music as well.
Yeah, because it's very easy when you're like, you've been touring since 18, and I've been on ships for the last year, so I can only compare those two things. But you're away for like such long periods of time. There does come a point where, you don't take it for granted necessarily, but it becomes your job, right? So you think of it like that, and so I think if this has done anything, which is great what you just said, it's given you that perspective to be like, wow, we are like so lucky to do that, And you've done so great to come home and also create something out of nothing. So let's talk about this new clothing line.
Yeah, Drummer. As you can see, I'm wearing. Thank you very much. It's a concept I've had for a while, but haven't really made the time. To do it. But obviously, with having so much time through the pandemic, I was able to kind of realize the vision that I had, and it's literally about us as drummers just being able to voice our identity, but do it in a cool way. Not everyone wants to wear drum company t-shirts. Some do, and I still wear drum company t-shirts, but sometimes you want to wear more fashionable stuff. And I think everybody, even the drum companies now, are releasing more fashionable apparel. And we're living in an age where everybody likes to show and express their identity. So what better time than now for drummers to be like, I'm a drummer and I don't care. I want everybody to know it. So that's where Drum and Drummer kind of was birthed from. And there's some cool things in the works. Hopefully by the end of the year there'll be some more stuff out. And I'm looking forward to seeing how far this brand can go.
Yeah, that's mega exciting, man. I'll be putting in an order post podcast.
Yes, sir.
And so where would you love to see the brand grow?
I want to see it grow to be like the go-to apparel brand for drummers. I want it to be as not just for fashion. I think we're trying to look into more practical stuff for drummers and making sure that we can do our job more effectively. So, whether that be, jeans that are a little bit more stretchy for drummers, because we're sitting down a lot, the stuff like that we're looking into. And, trying to push the boat and not just be another clothing company, but try and benefit drummers as much as we can as well.
I mean, what's great though is that you're coming at it from an angle where you've been in the industry for so long. You know from inside out what people are looking for.
Yes, sir. So and I'm fortunate enough to know a lot of drummers as well, so I can answering a lot of my friends' questions and stuff, and like what they want to see, what they would feel comfortable wearing, and what would enhance their performance as drummers as well. So it's cool to be able to get that kind of market research.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that access through being, through being a professional musician yourself must do a lot of the job,
Yeah, it's been very beneficial, definitely.
Yeah, and so I would love to know, like, do you see comparisons between, like, now you're an entrepreneur as well as a professional musician? Do you see crossovers from being a pro musician for all those years and continuing to do so and starting a business?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a little bit more. It's a different beast being an entrepreneur, because obviously the buck stops with you. There's not that layer of protection as a musician. Obviously we're still self-employed, but we work for a different artists. So the buck stops with them when we're representing them on whatever tour we do. So as a brand owner, the buck stops with me. So if I'm putting out content, it has to be great content. If I'm putting out the quality of the t-shirts, I have to be involved in all of that. So it's kind of the intricacies of it, which I have enjoyed actually. Just getting into the details of it has been great, and I think that's where it's a little bit different and a little bit more tedious, a little bit more intense, definitely.
But I guarantee, though, because you play at such an elite level and have done, you probably hold yourself to such a ridiculously high standard. So that is probably a very transferable thing in this new clothing line.
Yes, definitely. I don't want anything that Drummer puts out to be understanded. I want it to be excellent, and I want drummers to feel comfortable wearing it. I want drummers to feel cool wearing it as well. It's something that I don't want people to just buy it and just wear it once. I want them to be able to wear it constantly. So we looked into products that are great, machine washable stuff. Like, it's just different details like that to enhance the quality and keep it up.
Yeah, so that definitely a transferable skill then is that standard of like product, because your playing is your product when you're in music. So now this is your physical product. Something I read on the website, on the Drum and Drummer website, it's very geared towards like being authentically you, isn't it? It's very much about your identity and being you. So what would you say? There's an Avellino lyric. He's a UK rapper. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
He says that what was the lyric? I think the lyric is, being yourself is what makes you different now. Absolutely. And so how would you expand on that? Like, how would you navigate in this world now of just endless resources for musicians? We've almost got too much now. How would you advise just being you?
In a world that we live in now, like you said, there's access to so much information. There's so much things you can watch on YouTube. There's so many things you can watch on Instagram, Facebook. Not even just one platform. There's various different platforms you can access information on. So I think with all of that, it's about deciphering, first of all, what you like, and not what everybody else likes. It's all about what you like, and then it's about, of course, there's nothing new under the sun now. So it's about taking what you like and taking what you've seen from somebody else. Yeah, you can take bits from it and make it your own. That's what the emphasis is on about your identity. Obviously, there's things that will influence you, but it's about bringing yourself to what has influenced you. And it's the same with fashion. That you walk into Topman or River Island, there will be the same top in about four or five in the same size, and 4 or 5 people could pick it up. But 4 or 5 people will wear it differently. You can wear it with different jeans. You can wear it with different shoes. You can wear a hat. You can not wear a hat. You can wear a jacket. So it's about putting yourself into whatever you want to do, basically.
And that's just through following like your passion through that, right?
Absolutely.
And so if you were, do you teach at all?
I'm getting into teaching now.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so is that something that you really encourage?
Yeah, that's something that will be a staple in all of my lessons. You know, I can show you what I do, and that has worked for me. And I'm not saying it won't work for other people, but I'm sure if you bring you to the table, people will want what you bring to the table. Yeah. And it's all about that. It's not, you know, like I said, the drummers that helped me out, I'll take, you know, Gareth Brown, who was a major influence of mine. If I'd have just tried to be Gareth, then I might not have be as far as I am in my career now, as if I chose to be myself. So, you know, if I'd have carried on just trying to be Gareth, I'd be like, well, we can just call Gareth.
Yeah, yeah. And you will never be him, right?
Exactly. I'll never be him, and he'll never be me. I will be the best at being me. So that's the whole emphasis.
Yeah, because I can see how over the next like however many years, when all these new up and coming musicians come up, you know, it must be so hard to like put the blinkers on where you go on Instagram and it's like, oh, this guy just did this cool chop, like I'll just learn that. And then you're over here and then you do this and this and this. And then you're never actually, you're straying so far away from yourself that you like almost lose that sense of self, you know?
Definitely.
Even if you see people, even if you think, right, I want to be like get really good with and familiar with linear patterns.
Yeah.
But if you think you're only doing that because someone else is doing it, like it's not going to get you very far.
Exactly.
You have to do it because it's authentic. People can smell inauthenticity, right?
Absolutely. And obviously we're living in an age of heavy comparisons because of social media. But you know, if we just spend time comparing ourselves to what other people are doing and not working on ourselves, and you know what makes us happy and what makes us sound great, you know, then you know we won't get to that point where we are putting out our own content, sounding great in what we're doing, and getting the engagement that those other drummers are going to get.
Yeah. Plus, also, I'm sure you've seen it at your level where, you know, if it's within your like sphere to you're just like a real pocket player. You're not really that flashy, you know, but then you try and be something else. Like what I've seen over the last couple of months doing these podcasts, especially when people talk about auditions, is like people will come in and they will watch the other people do the auditions. And if they are like big shedders or something, they then think like, oh, well, maybe this is a shed. Maybe I just have to do that. And more often than not, the people that go in and just play how they play and maybe don't play that much, they get the job.
Absolutely. Yeah, because they're being themselves. And, you know, like you said, people can smell inauthenticity. They can smell it like from the gate. So it's all about just being yourself and working to your strengths. Working on your weaknesses, but working to your strengths more.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you would advise working on to be in a pop gig like the ones that you've been doing?
Listen to music, listen to all styles of music. Don't box yourself in. And, you know, play along to music as well. Practice to music as much as you can. If you've got the access to, you know, a kit at home, put on that music from iTunes and just go for it. You know, and then take the parts and, you know, just take a song off the radio and try and decipher what the drum part is. That will get you into, you know, the learning mode of a professional musician. You know, try and take that drum part, really lock in, find a hi-hat pattern, find a kick pattern, find a snare drum. You know, even with tuning as well, if you want to mess around and try and find the closest tuning on your drum to that sound, do that for 2 hours and then move on. You know, it's stuff like that can help improve you and kind of help you transition smoother when it comes to a professional setting.
Yeah. And so it's like that active listening, right? Rather than just like going through the motions.
Yeah. And yeah, rather than just going, putting on a song and shedding to it, then you can do that, and then be like, okay, I'm going to put the same song on, and then I'm going to play it straight the whole way through 3 times, and then I'm going to shed it 3 times, and then I'm going to, I'm going to find different ways to kind of accentuate like vocal hits or different lyrics. There's stuff like that that can help you with your musicality as well.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that, because when you get into the working world, it's not about you anymore, and those small things, those small differences make such a massive impact. Like, I don't know if you've seen, I think Steve Jordan did a clinic, I think in London, and he had someone come up and play a groove. And then he was like, I will show you, I'll play the exact same groove, but I'll just change like tiny bits within it. And I think all he did is he went up and he just played a heavier hi-hat, and the sound, the difference was like night and day.
Yeah.
Which goes back exactly what you were saying, is like those nuances but you'd have to know that. You'd have to listen carefully to think like, oh, he's like pushing, you know?
Yeah, it's about listening intentionally, and just really trying to hone in and lock in to what the drum part is. And that can definitely help you moving into the professional setting.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the Sam Smith gig and the Jesse J gig and things like that, when you're prepping for those tours or shows, a lot of their music is very like Restart, for example, like we were speaking about earlier, is like pretty much all electronic drum loops and stuff, right? So how do you process the emulation of those when you play it live?
So what I would do, so most hi-hats you will play straight live on your own hi-hats, but when it comes to kicks and snares, I will trigger those to absolutely nail the actual sound from the record, and then I'll have it triggered with my main snare, so it gives it a little bit of a lift, and my main kick, which will lift it again. So using my Roland SPD XS. Thank you, Roland. I'll put the sound from the record into that, trigger them, and that will replicate the exact sound of the song.
And so does the producer send you those stems, or do you find them yourself?
The MD will get the stems from the producer.
So it'll be the exact same sample?
Yeah, the exact same sample, mastered. So you don't have to do anything to it, just load it in and literally call it up. And
that's so great. And so when it comes to the prep, how many songs do you play on an average night on a Sam Smith tour?
About 2 years. About 20 to 25 songs.
So do you, when you first get those tracks in, do you notate, or do you memorize, or do you just shed?
It depends. It depends on the music. I listen to the music all the way through first, and then I will kind of see what my approach will be. There's some tours I've notated. There's some tours I haven't. I've just listened and played it through. There's some tours that I've worked stuff out before on my kit, and there's some I've just gone in first day rehearsal and played it. I think now I've got access to drums at home. I can sit down and work it out first, with a kind of idea of what I'm going to trigger, what would be left on track. It depends as well, obviously, if there is track on a tour. There's some tours that I've done with no track, so it's all those different components that you have to kind of work out in rehearsal.
And do you just compartmentalize them all, or just you have to like separate them all? Because there's one thing programming them, and then there's another thing, the physicality of playing them. That's something I realized on one of the ships we played. It was like really, there was a trigger on one of the songs, and it was just really awkward. It was so awkward to play. So do you have a process where you you program first and then you play and then you put it all together, or?
I'll play first and try and play as much as I can first, and then kind of program around that. I think there was this one song that Aston Marigold from JLS, he did. It's called think it's called Distraction. But I wanted to play as much of that drum loop as possible. So I kind of worked it out in rehearsal to be able to do it across 2 snares and stuff like that. But when you're able to do stuff like that and play as much as you can and leave as much as you can off track, is very rewarding.
Yeah, because it's a whole thing in itself, isn't it? It's just so like I haven't even got into the whole Ableton thing yet, where you can use the same pad throughout the whole track, and the pad will change or multiple. Like I haven't even got into that. I just do it so that it's like each song is on each kit, and then you just change it whenever you need to change it. But it's like that's something that people don't necessarily realize, is they might think you have like a programmer or something, but like you are the programmer.
Yeah, and I mean on Sam, we're able to do that with MIDI changes as well, which is a luxury. You're able to just keep playing and not having to worry about patch changes and stuff like that. But on some tours there's not. So I think you should be able to kind of live with both and not kind of keep yourself on your toes kind of thing, and just be able to, and sometimes the track goes down. So you should be able to do both, just in case.
Yeah. And so is that something that you would advise working on for people who want to get into the industry, is even a kind of a basic knowledge of like, say, Roland or Ableton, or like some form of like live programming?
Yes, definitely. Have a basic knowledge, even if it's just Logic, because I mean, Logic's the most popular. Just have a basic knowledge. I think a lot of the skills are transferable across different DAW programs. So even if it's just Logic, or even if it's GarageBand, just get familiar with some sort of programming software.
Yeah, I mean, that's great advice, I think, especially coming from someone who's like literally done it. And so when it go like now, obviously you've got this like incredible portfolio career, not that you didn't before, but it was probably very heavily tour and playing influenced, and now you have this business. So how do you think you're going to manage all of that?
I feel like I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself. I think once things get busier, gonna have to delegate and just try and not put too much on myself. I'm a person that would, if I do everything, then that's fine, I'll just do it. But I think even this period has taught me a lot about myself as well. So just being smart and knowing when to delegate, knowing when to call in favors as well. I think there's going to be a lot of that. I just locking in and just kind of trying to realize the vision, and just make use of all the time I have.
Definitely. And in that similar vein, how do you balance a great home life when you are on tour? How do you manage the two? Because it's very easy to like be on tour and then just stay in that tour bubble, and then like you come home and then maybe you're not as close as you once were, like how do you manage that?
Well, home is number one, because home is where the heart is, and when all else fails, that's what you have. So that's the balance. Home is here, everything else is here. And that's the balance we all have to take moving forward, especially now. With life being so fragile, and you got to make the most of the people that mean the most. So wherever you can prioritize home, do it.
So it's just having that constant perspective, that narrative, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so what would you say to people who want to be a professional touring musician, but then also want to branch out into other things? I know we've had this year off, which has given you like ample time to do it. Would you have done it? I'm guessing you would have done it regardless of whether you were this COVID time or not. So what would you say to anyone? Is there anything that you would advise?
Just don't sit on your ideas. This is something I should have done a lot sooner. So I feel like had I not sat on this idea, maybe now I could have, been further along in the business and had more time to kind of push it to the next level. So even though I've had the time to start it, which I'm grateful for. You know, I feel like had I not sat on the idea, maybe it could be further now. But I would say don't sit on your ideas. You know, if you can make it happen while you're out working, and you know, there's time between sound check and the gig. There's time between when you wake up and sound check. You know, and I'm talking to myself definitely, because you know you can get into that, like you said, being on the road. You know, just chill.
Yeah.
It's one big holiday, but I feel like now, with the way the world is, with the way this pandemic has kind of treated us as musicians, there's not really much time to waste anymore. So I feel like all of us going back, just we need to make the most of our time.
Yeah, I absolutely love that answer, because I think a lot of people, they sit and then someone else does it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like,
and it's like, that's my idea.
Yeah.
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 It's like, I think 90% of things that kills new ideas is just that someone has acted faster than you. You know, like it's like 10% the idea and then it's 90% just acting on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But what's great is that you have done it. You know, you could have waited another 5 years or 10. Like, it's great that you've done it now, and it's great that this time is allowed for that.
Absolutely. And I'm grateful for this time. I'm grateful to, you know, be an entrepreneur and add that to, you know, add that string to my bow kind of thing.
Yeah. And do you think there's an element of like that, almost like imposter syndrome? Did you ever get that where you were like, well, I play drums, you know, I can't really go out and now. Did you get any of that?
Yeah,
or was it always there?
I mean, there's an element of self-doubt in every kind of, you know, in every kind of moment where you're pushing yourself out, and it's not just, you know, I'm myself, but I'm playing for this artist. But now I'm putting myself out there. I'm putting my ideas out there. I'm putting my fashion tastes out there. And if people don't like that, you know, it's kind of scary. Yeah. So, you know, thankfully people have responded to it, and you know, I've got great feedback about the t-shirts. I've got great feedback about the colors and the design. You know, great feedback about my Instagram designs and stuff like that. So it's really encouraging to just say, just do it, just put it out there.
Yeah, just block all that.
Yeah, whether it be if you want to put music out, if you want to do a podcast like you're doing, if you want like anything you want to do outside of just playing, just do it. You know?
Yeah. And especially I love that, because I read a book this week, and one of the last chapters was about, like, sounds morbid, but it was like that, like, use of death. You know, it's like this is kind of a one-stop shop. You know, this is a one go round. So the more you sit on your ideals, and you know, you don't act, or you don't put that thing out there, and if you're constantly waiting all the time, like, imagine the worst happened and then you never put it out.
Exactly.
You know, like there's a really, really good quote by a guy called Les Brown, and he says, I think he's paraphrasing someone else, but he says the graveyard is the richest place on earth. You know that, right? Yeah,
I know that one.
That's one of my favorite ones.
Same. It's true. It's literally from, you know, there's loads of books, there's loads of inventions, there's loads of songs that died with people that we'll never get to hear or experience or wear or read. You know, there's loads of that. So like I said, just don't sit on your ideas anymore. Just go for it.
Yeah, and there was a great one when he says, I don't know who said that, it might be Les Brown again, but the three people that are standing around your bed, your deathbed, you know, and that's like your dreams, your goals, and whatever. And they're like, now, you know, we come with you now. Like, we don't get to go and fulfill this with anyone else. You know, this is it, you know? And I just think, like, can you imagine the world we'd live in if people didn't live in that fear state? Because, like, I think where that kind of comes from is just like that fear of judgment, I guess.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. It's, you know, it's fear of judgment, fear of rejection. That's big, especially now in the social media arena. You know, with trolls and the online abuse, you don't want that on your page. You don't want anybody to be in your comments saying, oh, this is trash, why are you putting this out? You know, there's all of that. So it's just the fear of not being accepted. But
Yeah,
once you get
and
past that,
it can also come from within your own friendship circle or
yeah,
family circle, right? That's probably the more dangerous.
yeah, and that's the thing with being an entrepreneur and someone, it's not everybody's going to support, and you can't take it personally. And that's something I've had to learn over the last year. You know, um, you can't take it personally. You just gotta move with who moves with you, and just the people that are rocking with you, the people that are supporting you. Support them, and kind of that's your audience, that's your fan base. You gotta build on that.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it's the same in music at that level as well, right? It's that like, there probably is an element of like, oh my God, like I'm not sure if I'm the person, but then you've been hired for that reason. I think that's something that you have to play that narrative to yourself, even if no one else is, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I said that to another musician that was a little less experienced than myself. We were on a gig together, and they were a little bit nervous, and I was like, "You're in the room, so it's okay. Like, you're in the room. Your talent and your personality got you to the room. So you have to own it, and you have to just arrive at the point where, okay, they wanted me because I'm good at what I do. So let me bring me to the table, and let me just smash this."
Yeah, because I think we put so much of ourselves in our craft and in your new clothing line and in your playing ability, that when that seems to be like under attack through whatever, that comes as like a real personal shock, right?
Definitely.
But I think like, so does that come into it? In the same book I read about that death thing, the second one, it was called The Four Agreements. It was a really good book. And the second one was like, don't take anything personally. So in music, if someone came to you and you played and then they were like, can you like do something a bit different? Like, you shouldn't take that as like
No, you shouldn't, because at the end of the day, you're hired to play what the MD and what the artist requires you to play. And if you want to play anything different than that, then by all means put your own music out and play what you want. But if you're gonna be a working and touring musician or singer, then you're gonna have to sing how the artist is asking you to sing, how they hear their music sounding. You're serving the bigger purpose, which is the music that they put out, and you're gonna bring that to another level, on the live stage.
Yes. So it's always in that service of the music. That's
definitely.
Yeah. And so would your audition advice be a similar thing? Is that because I did a podcast a few weeks ago with Eric Pickfunk Smith, who plays for Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson. And he said, you won't believe the amount of people that come in to these auditions and they just shed all over the tracks. He was like, it's unbelievable. He was like, there's probably names that I'm not going to tell you,
Yeah.
So what would you say about that?
For audition, most of the auditions I've done, I've played the songs. Normally you get to play the songs twice or 3 times. So each time, you kind of play the song, figure it out the first time. The second time you play it, and then the third time you kind of put yourself into it a little bit more and to kind of leave that impression. That's how I would do it, and it's not just about shedding. You could do something to let people know that you've got artillery in your without just all guns blazing. So there's things that you can do, and obviously, thankfully, I have a reputation, and I have a portfolio that precedes me. So, but if you don't have that yet, it's fine. You can still follow those same kind of steps, and just play the song first, service the music first, and then kind of put yourself in there to leave that impression. Because with auditions, obviously they're seeing a bunch of people, so you have to do something that will get you remembered, but not remembered for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. You don't want to be throwing drums around when you do a bad audition.
Exactly.
And so how important would you say it is this is a constant narrative of you can be, incredibly gifted, but you can be, a dick or whatever.
Yeah.
How important is it to be also a good hang?
Oh, it's more important than being being a good musician these days, because, well, in general, because you spend more time off stage than you do on stage. You spend 2 hours on stage doing a show. You spend an hour and a half in sound check. So that's 3.5 hours out of 24 hours. So the rest of the time you're around people all the time, and and if you're on a tour bus, you're sleeping around people, you have to live around people. So it's all about, being a good hang. And even if you're not out all the time, just being a nice person, being pleasant, being professional, being on time, on tour bus, being tidy, stuff like that. Like, these are your living quarters for the next 4 to 6 weeks or however long you're on the road. So it's your offstage etiquette is more important than how you can play. And I said that on another podcast I did with Kojo Samuel. It's so important. There's people, like you said, that are amazing players, but like, I don't want to hire him because I don't want to deal with his attitude. I don't want to deal with him being late all the time or her being late all the time. I don't want to deal with that. So I believe that your offstage presence is very, very, very important.
Yeah. And so what would you say, how can people, because that's such a, like, when people say it, it can be quite vague. So what would you say, like, how would you work on that? Would you just like hang around after gigs, or have a good social life? And
well, like I said, you don't have to hang around all the time to be a good person to tour with. There's some people that never come out or never go out, that are they stay working. So it doesn't mean you have to be out all the time. It just means when you're around, you have to be pleasant and a good person to be around. So it's just being a cool person to be around whenever you're around.
Yeah, and what's nice to know is that at your very elite level is that there's probably not much wiggle room for people who are just going to be not great to get along with.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. some that slip through the net, but generally, once you get to that level, it's cool people to be around.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, it's nice to know.
Yeah.
And so we're on the last one. It's been an hour. It's been an amazing, incredibly insightful hour. I know. Thank you. And so I would just love your final piece of advice for anyone wanting to emulate your career, your now portfolio career. What would you say?
First of all, believe in yourself. If I can do it, then you can do it. Anybody can do it. I came from a background where, I'm not educated in music like that. I grew up in church. That was my education musically. But, I've been blessed enough to be able to do what I do for a living. So, like I said, if I can do it, then you can do it. Just believe in yourself. Practice, not just chops, practice the music. Listen to music intentionally. Listen out for drum parts and just learn drum parts for fun. That can become part of your practice routine as well. It's all about fine tuning and building the skills that are necessary for, a working musician. And, just be yourself. Like I said, like Drum and Drummers, our mantra is your instrument, your identity. So, be yourself. No one can be you. So that's your advantage.
Yeah.
You're best at being yourself. And if you put yourself into, the music, or if you put yourself into whatever you do, that it could be producers, mix engineers, whoever, whatever you do in this industry, just put yourself into it. And more times than not, they'll hire you because of that. So that's my advice. to anybody who wants to do it. And yeah, just get around musicians as well. Find a jam night, find a local social club, wherever. Just join a band. You know, there's people on there's Facebook groups. There's always bands looking for drummers, bass players, whatever instrument you play. You know, even if it's just for 6 months, just get around people and build that relationship of, you know, interacting, looking around the stage and looking at other musicians and seeing what they're doing, seeing where the spaces are. So that's where, okay, that's where I can do something. Okay, you don't do anything there. But if you know that, okay, the guitarist does a lick after the second chorus every time, then you know I'm gonna stay out of that. So it's just about building that rapport, knowing the musicians and kind of learning where their moments are so you can, you know, establish your moments.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible way to end. And also, I actually reached out to you, I think when I was in university, maybe like 7 years ago, and you actually gave me that advice.
Oh,
and
wow.
here we are all these years later. So yeah, thank you for just being like just such a humble, like killer player, but it also shows that you can also be just incredibly gracious. So credit to you, man.
I appreciate that. And everybody check out Drum and Drummer.
Absolutely. I'll link it and I will promo the shit out of it.
Thank you,
as
man.
much as I can to all my drummer friends and whoever wants to buy one. And so, yeah, thank you so much.
Nice one, Dan, man. I appreciate you, bro.